All right, guys, this is Math 1050 extra credit review. Okay, question number 1 is to multiply these things together. So this guy's a 2 by 2. This guy's a 2 by 2. So I can totally do it because those match. And when I'm done, it's a 2 by 2. So 2 down and 2 across. So this first guy, you take the row, and the second guy, you take the column. So it is, and remember the 2 comes down. So you go 1 times negative 2 is a negative 2. 2 times 3 is a positive 6. A negative 2 and a positive 6 is a 4. The next one is here, and I do that one. So the 2 comes down. So 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times negative 4 is a negative 8. That gives me a negative 7. Some of you are putting it here. It actually goes there. It goes in the same column that I just used. So be careful with that. Okay, so I'm at a column. So now I'm going to change rows and do it again. So that row times this column, and again the 4 comes down. So 3 times negative 2 is a negative 6. 4 times 3 is 12. Combine those and I get a 6. And now I'm going to change columns, and the 4 comes down. So 3 times 1 is 3. 4 times negative 4 is a negative 16. Combine, I get a negative 13, and there's my answer. Okay, number 2. Okay, so this one's super easy. Here's your equation. The only thing that you care about is that biggest exponent is a 7. So turning points is take the biggest exponent, subtract 1, and you get a 6. That's the most number of turning points. Remember, turning point is you're going along and you turn, and then you turn, and then you turn. Those are turning points. Okay, number 3. So Nina wants to triple her initial investment of $2,000. Okay, so $2,000 is the initial, 6.5% interest, and it's computed annually, or annual interest, sorry, and it's compounded quarterly. Set up an equation. Do not solve for it to triple. So you guys read the directions. If it says don't simplify or don't solve, then stop. So just be really careful, okay? So your formula is A equals P, 1 plus R divided by N raised to the NT. You have to have that formula memorized. So if you start with 2,000 and it triples, now you're at 6,000. And it's 1 plus the rate, which is 0.065. Compounded quarterly, N is 4. Raised to the 4, and T is what you're looking for, and you leave it alone, okay? Okay, number 4. Convert this into exponential. So this is super simple. I would love it if that was there. So your base is an A. You raise it to the other side, which is a 5, is equal to 3. Okay, question 5. So this one's pretty easy, and you've seen it quite a bit. So what they want you to do is they want you to solve for log base b of x. So you take that 3 and you pull it down in front. And then to get the pink alone, you just divide by 3. And there's your answer. It's just 8 over 3. Okay, question 6. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that equation and I'm going to factor it, just so I have it factored. So it goes to 7 and 1. The biggest is the positive. This goes to x and x. The 12 goes to 4 and 3, and the signs are both negative. So question 6, they're asking for the domain. That comes from the bottom. So x can't be 3. Remember, please do not write it like that. Now they're saying they want us to write it as x cannot be 3 and x cannot be 4. So just to be safe, I would literally write everything separately. Even if you're solving something and you get x equals 2 and 1, I would write it as x equals 2, x equals 1. Do you have to? Nope. But if you just remember, if you write them separately, then they're all going to be right. It might be easier, but whatever you want. Okay, question 7, find the x-intercept. So you do that by letting y be 0, which is the same as letting the top be a 0. So the x minus 1 gives you a 1. The x plus 7 gives you a negative 7. There are your answers. Okay. Question 8, to find the y-intercept, you're going to let x be a 0. It's way easier to let x be a 0 in the non-factored version. So here was the original problem before I factored it. And if x is a 0, those things all go away, and I get a negative 7 over a positive 12. Okay? All right, number 9. So find the vertical asymptote. So to find the vertical asymptote, you have to factor. So the top does not factor. The bottom factors 2, an x and an x, and a 5 and a 2, and the biggest is the positive. So your vertical asymptotes come from the bottom. That would be x equals 2 and x equals negative 5. And this one, absolutely, you cannot go x equals 2, negative 5, because they're vertical asymptotes, and you have to graph it. And how do you graph that? Doesn't make sense. Question 10, non-vertical asymptote. So before I graphed it, or pardon me, before I factored it, it looked like this, the original problem. So non-vertical, you go biggest over biggest. So you take that entire term and that entire term, because those have the biggest exponents. So it would be y equals 2x squared over x squared. The x squareds cancel, and you get y equals 2. Okay? Question 11. So this is the binomial theorem. It's the last lesson we learned. So remember, it's raised to the 33, so the 33 goes there. The 2a needs to be in parentheses, and the negative 3 needs to be in parentheses. I saw someone yesterday do this, like that. You will literally lose every point, because this will probably be an all or nothing. So it's not a subtraction problem, it's a multiplication, and your base is a negative 3. So they want the a to be raised to the 4th, so that goes there. And then 33 minus whatever we put there is supposed to be 4. Well, that's got to be 29. 33 minus 29 is 4. And then that 29 comes up there as an exponent. Again, read the directions. It says do not simplify. If you look at the answer key has 33, 4, and then the rest is the same. But then it also gives, like, you can have this or this or this. So ours is one of the options of the or. So just keep looking, and ours is there. You're good. Okay, question number 12. So question number 12 is totally strange. You've got 4 equations and 3 variables. So you can still do it, and all you have to do is get these in the right order. So x, y, z, constant, and then x is a negative 1, y is a 3, z is a 2, constant, x is 1, y is a negative 1, z is a 1, constant, and then x, and then y, and then z, and then constant. That would be your setup. Don't worry what to do beyond that, and you can see that the correct answer is C. Okay? Question 13. If this is your f of x, and this is your inverse, then the range of f is what? So what they're saying is, what is the range of that guy, the original? Well, the range of that guy is the domain of this guy, because remember this happens. So domain of inverse, range of inverse. So the domain of the function is the range of the inverse, and the range of the function is the domain of the inverse. So if you look at this inverse, the domain is x can't be 2. So now that has to match this. So the range is y can't be 2. That's it. Okay, number 14. So 14 is super easy. I would love it if this was on your test. They give you this set, and they ask you for f inverse of 2. Just so you guys understand, the inverse is 1/2 5, 4 negative 2, negative 1 2, 2 negative 3, and 3 1/2. That would be the inverse. And now they're saying, what is f inverse of 2? Well, if x is 2, y is a negative 3. So f inverse of 2 is negative 3. Do you really have to write that all up on this problem? Nope. You just say where the y is 2, then there's my answer. Okay? Number 15. So on 15, you have y equals x to the third plus 2. Find the inverse. So you'd go x equals y to the third plus 2. Solve up for y. Y to the third equals x minus 2. Cube root both sides. I don't need a plus or minus. So f inverse of x is the cube root of x minus 2. If you look at the options, that is option C. Now, what else can you do to that? Well, that's the same thing as x minus 2 to the 1/3. So if that option was there, I would have to choose that as well. And if you look, it is not. So if you look at A says that the inverse is negative x to the third minus 2. Is that equivalent to that? No. B is 1 over x to the third plus 2. Is this equivalent to that? No. C I already wrote. And then D is the cube root of x plus 2, and that is not the same. So I went through and made sure there were not multiple correct answers. There are not. Okay? Okay, here's 16. So it'll take a second, but I just want to duplicate this table so that you understand what I'm doing. Sorry. I should probably pull in this review in, 830 negative 1 0 3 8. Anyway, pulling the review in I think takes me a minute, so we'll just do it this way. G of f of 0. So this means G of f of 0. So the first thing you do is find f of 0. So you look right here, and if x is 0, what's f of x? Negative 1. So replace that. So now you're finding g of negative 1. So now I'm looking here in the yellow, because your x is a negative 1. What's your g of x? 0. That's your answer, just 0. Okay, number 17. Here's your problem. And they're asking you what is the correct first step. So the correct first step problems are really pretty simple. If you have two logs and a number that's not a 0, you condense the logs, which means the 3x minus 1 is going to be multiplied by the x plus 1 equals 6. Look at the options. Oh, not multiplied, sorry. They're subtracted, and subtracted means divide. So the 3x minus 1 is on top, the x plus 1 is on bottom. Looks like that equals 6, okay? It is not option B, because on that one the log is written twice. So it is option A, okay? Okay, question 18. So the maximum value. So you guys, you got to remember all these details. So if they say the maximum point, you're going to write it as xy. If they say find the maximum value, it's y equals something. So some of you are going, that's negative b over 2a. That's negative 8 over 2 times negative 1. 3 negatives is a negative, and you have a 4. And you're like, yay, there's my answer. That's false, because that's the x coordinate of the vertex. They want the y. So now you have to go f of negative 4 is negative times negative 4 squared minus 8 times negative 4 plus 5. I'm telling you right now, a ton of the time I do this, I would take that negative 4 and store it, especially on this problem, because all these negatives. So some of you are going to say a negative times a negative is a positive. For the second is 16. That is false. So just use your calculator. So go negative 4, store, enter. Sorry. Negative 4, store, enter. Then go negative memvar, enter, x squared, minus 8, memvar, enter, plus 5, hit enter, and you get 21. So your answer is y equals 21. Okay? Number 19. So this is a recursive sequence. Recursive means you use the previous term to find the next term. How do you know it's a recursive sequence? because you need to remember that c of n minus 1 means the previous term. So the first term is a -2. Now just apply this formula. So you go 3 times the previous term minus 1, that's -6 minus 1, which is a -7. c sub 3 is 3 times the previous term minus 1, that gives me -22. There's my answer. Number 20. How long will it take an initial investment of $2,000 to be worth $3,500 if it's compounded continuously and the rate is 6%? Okay, so the formula is A equals CE to the KT. So I start with 2,000. My amount is going to change to 3,500. This is actually, it doesn't matter. CE to the RT, CE to the KT, it doesn't matter. So it means the same, 0.06 times T. So I'm not stuck because of the 2,000. So I have E to the 0.06 T is equal to, if I go 3,500 divided by 2,000, I get 1.75, and I would definitely write it like that. And it don't round right there, but it's exactly 1.75. Convert it, log base E of 1.75 is -0.06 T divided by -0.06. Okay, so go ln 1.75, close it, divided by -0.06, hit enter, read the directions. They told you to round to, oops, I did something wrong. Okay, something's wrong. The reason I know something's wrong is because I got a negative. Oh, haha. So that was actually like a really great example. Like I found my T and my T was negative. Well, instead of just changing it to a positive and moving on, I clearly know that I did something wrong. Well, what I did is I put this negative right there. So that should not be a negative. It should just be a positive. So I'm dividing by a positive. And now I get ln 1.75, close it off, divided by 0.06, hit enter, and I get nearest tenth is 9.3, and that would be years. Now, it's totally checkable. So take that exact answer, hit store, enter, put it right here, and you better get 3,500. So go 2,000, second, ln, 0.06, membar, enter, enter, 3,500. I got it right. Okay, check your answers. Okay, 21 is another nice, easy question. The correct first step problems are so sweet. So here's your base, here's your exponent. You are not stuck because of the 4. So it's 5 to the 3x is 12 divided by 4, which is 3. And if you look, that is option C. Okay. Question 22, the form of the partial fraction decomposition. So here it is. All they want, well, let's set it up. So it's something over x. The x plus 1 should be to the first, and then the x plus 1 should be to the second. So if anything's squared, you have to have 1 and then you have 2. If it's cubed, you have to have 1 and then 2 and then 3. Above this is an A, above this is a B, above this is a C. Literally, that's all you have to do. Some of you are getting confused on this ax plus b. When do you do that? Well, if the problem looked like this, 2x plus 1 over x times x squared plus 1, do you see how that's squared, but it won't factor? So you'd go, this guy has an x, this guy has an x squared plus 1, this guy has an a, this guy has squared and won't factor, so that's bx plus c, and that would be your answer. So be careful, okay? All right, 23. Okay, so I hate these problems. I hate these problems because I think you can do it by yourself. I think you know how to change these into what they need to be, but now you're trying to get in somebody else's head and see what they did wrong. Okay, and there should be a line right there. Okay, so basically, this person is taking one step. Some of you guys were doing like 5 steps. It's one step. And they're taking row 2 and they're changing it to this. Okay. Now, why would I turn a 2 into a -1? Not sure. But, you know, we're going to just say we did it. So what can I do to turn a 2 into a -1? Well, I could change the sign. So I could say a negative times row 3, that makes that a -2, plus row 1 becomes my new row 3. So basically row 1 minus row 3. So if I did row 1 minus row 3, it'd be 1 minus 2, -1, 2 minus 2, 0, 3 minus 1, that's a 2, 4 minus a -1, that's a 5, and it doesn't work, so that is not it. Okay, so what else could you do? Well, you could, and you know, honestly, I think I kind of struggled with this one a little bit, like trying to figure out how to do this. So here's another thing you could do, although that's not going to be it. I could go -3 times row 2 plus row 3 becomes my new row 3. So make that a 3. No, that's not going to do it. Keep that a -3. So it would be this. Take a 3, multiply it by that -1. I get a -3 and add it. But that is not going to be it because that doesn't give me a -4. So that's not it. Okay, so I'm going to try a little bit longer. And if I can't figure it out, I'm going to come back. This is why I hate these problems. And I think if I remember correctly, it's really kind of an easy thing. Okay, I'm just going to kind of try some things. So I'm going to say a negative times row 3 minus row 2 becomes my new row 3. So I'm changing the sign of that guy, it becomes a negative. Changing the sign of that guy, it becomes a positive. So let's see if that's it. So take row 2, take row 3, change all the signs. Take row 2, change all the signs. And let's see if I get it. -1, -2. No. I know this is so simple because when I finally looked at it, I was like, well, that was easy. Let's see if they give an explanation. So I'm going to cheat. So sorry. I'm kind of struggling with this one. Yeah, it doesn't even say. They're saying this is a -8 and this is a -13. All right, let's try again. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do on 23 so I don't sit and waste time. I'm going to skip it, and then if you need 23, fast forward to the end of this video, and hopefully I will figure it out. Okay, here's 24. Okay, find the remainder. So a couple of ways you could do it. I'm going to go x minus 2, and inside 3x to the second minus x plus 5. What do I multiply by x to get 3x a second? That's 3x. I'm not missing anything, by the way. This is a 1 and a constant, a 2, a 1 and a constant, so I'm good. Distribute 3x to the second minus 6x. Change my signs. Those cancel. I get a 5x. Bring down the 5. What do I multiply by x to get 5x? That's a 5. Distribute. I'm recording! 5x minus 10. Go away!
Hello! Hello!
Angie Leedy is a freak of nature. Oh my gosh, you're so funny. So I get a 15, so my remainder is a 15, okay? Another thing you could do is you could do synthetic division. So you could do a 2. This would be a 3, a -1, and a 5. Find your remainder. Another thing you could do is you could plug in x equals 2, set that equals 0, plug it in right there, and that will also give you the same thing, okay? Okay, number 25. Leedy is so funny. Okay, so here is this problem. And another easy, find the correct first step. So this is a critical number type 2. So it's 2 over x minus, or x plus 4. Pull the 5 over, it becomes a negative, greater than or equal to 0. And you look through, and that is option B. Okay, 26. All right, so on 26, basically you have negative x plus 8 on the top. I just reordered. The bottom factors 2x and x, and it's going to be 4 and a 2, like that. And I'm actually going to factor that out like that. They give you the critical numbers in the problem, and that would be 2 and 4 and 8. Okay, so now I'm going to go to this number line, and the 2 is going to be here, and the 4 is going to be here, and the 8 is going to be out here. The critical numbers from the bottom are restrictions, so they're open. The 8 comes from the top, so it's closed. I know the signs are going to alternate. I think some of you are forgetting this. These exponents are 1, 1, and 1, which is all odds. There are no even exponents, so everything's just going to alternate. So I always just go, okay, my 0 would be over here. And if x is a 0, these things all go away. I'd have a positive 8 over a positive 8, so that would give me a positive. So this is a positive, negative, positive, negative. Here's another place people are messing up. Less than, you got to look right there. Less than tells you to shade the negatives. And all they want is just the number line, so you're done. Okay, number 27. Okay, so they give you a number line. You have a 2, which is closed. You have a 5, pardon me, a 6, which is open, and you shaded the outside. Okay, so interval form would be negative infinity to 2 with a bracket, union 6 with a parenthesis to infinity, like that. And if you look, that is option B. The union means or, so that would also be option C. Just remember U means or. This right here means and. That is not correct because you couldn't be over here and over here. That doesn't make sense. Okay, question 8. Another correct first step. So this is a critical numbers type 1. So the first step is to factor. Well, first step is to get a 0, which is done. The second step is to factor, so it would look like this. This is going to be 2 and 1. Signs are different. Biggest to positive looks like that. So I just factored, and the correct option is option A. Okay, 29. So f plus g of 1. Basically, they're asking you to find f of 1 and add it to g of 1. So go to an x value of 1. The f of x is the dashed line, and that is right at a 0 on the y. The g of x is the solid line, and it is up 3. So g of 1 is a positive 3. 0 plus 3 is a 3. Okay, number 30. Find the domain. So you guys, on this problem, you can find the domain just algebraically. You know you can't take the log of a negative, nor can you take the log of 0. So x minus 1 has to be greater than 0, which means x has to be greater than 1, any form, and you're fine. Okay, what is the intercept? Well, that's confusing. So this is on 30b. So they're either looking for the x-intercept or the y-intercept or both. So if I were you, I would graph that thing. So the parent graph is y equals log base 4 of x. It's going to hit right here at 1, 0, and then at 4, 1, like that. And then you're going to dash in the asymptote, and you're going to curve it in like that. But ours is shifted to the right one. So now I'm going to take that graph. I'm going to take my asymptote and shift it to the right one, and then that is 1, 0, so now it's going to be 2, 0, and that one is 4, 1, so now it's going to be 5, 1, and it looks like that. Okay, so the y-intercept is none, and the x-intercept is 2, 0. So the answer, what is the intercept? 2, 0. I don't think you need to specify which one it is, but I think if you did, it would be fine. Okay, number 31. Assume that this is an arithmetic. Find the appropriate sum. Okay, or find the sum, I mean. Okay, so here is your sequence. Okay, so it's arithmetic. So I would just drop my formulas out of my brain. So a sub n equals a plus d times n minus 1, and S sub n equals, I always forget, I think it's A, yes, times, oh, no. S sub n is n divided by 2, a plus a sub n, like that. I was getting confused with geometric. Okay, so this is arithmetic. 2 subtract 3 is a negative 1. 1 subtract 3 is a negative 4. Negative 4 subtract 3 is negative 7. So I know that my D is a negative 3. I know that my A is a 2. Here's what I don't know. Look, n is 1, n is 2, n is 3, n is 4, n is, I have no idea. So I'm trying to use this formula, and in order to use this formula, I have to know n and a sub n. N is, I don't know. A is the first term, which is 2. A sub n is the last term, which is negative 169. The reason people miss these is because they don't know what these things stand for. They don't know that a sub n means the last term. So how am I going to find n? I have to go into the other equation. So a sub n, that's negative 169, is the first term, which is a 2, plus the common difference, which is a negative 3, times n minus 1. Now find n. So 2 minus 3n plus 3 equals negative 169. So that gives me negative 3n plus 5 equals negative 169. Pull your negative 169 over, and you get 174. And then negative 174 divided by negative 3 is 58. So now I know there are 58 terms, so now I can use this. So the sum of the first 58 terms is 58 divided by 2. First term is a 2, last term is negative 169. Guys, you have to show all that work. So be so clear and tidy and all that wonderful stuff. Put that in my calculator, and I get negative 4,843, and that's it. Okay? All right, number 32. Okay, so here is your equation. So the things I need to find are x-intercept, y-intercept, vertical asymptote, non-vertical asymptote, and does it cross? Okay. To find the x-intercept, you let y be 0, which is the same as letting the top be a 0. If I let the top be a 0, I get 0, 0. That's even, so it's bounce. To find the y-intercept, it's the same, and you're only going to have one. 0, 0 is an x-intercept and a y-intercept, so I'm done. Vertical asymptotes come from the bottom. That'd be x equals 2. Only have one of them, so that's odd. Non-vertical asymptote, well, the biggest over biggest is x squared over x, so the top is bigger than the bottom. So it's an oblique asymptote, okay? So on the bottom, on the outside, I'm going to have x minus 2. On the inside, I'm going to have an x to the second. Now, you have to be careful because you have to remember to do something, or you're going to get hit with a lot of points off. So do you see how you have the second? You have to have a first, and you have to have a constant, and it matters. What do I multiply by x to get x to second? That's an x. Distribute x to second minus 6x. Change your signs. Those cancel. I get a 2x. Bring down the 0. What do I multiply by x to get 2x? That's a 2. Distribute 2x minus 4. Change your signs. Those cancel. That's my remainder. So my non-vertical asymptote is y equals x plus 2. Okay? Now, does it cross? You take the right side of the non-vertical, x plus 2, set it equal to the right side of the original, which is x squared over x minus 2. Cross multiply, and you get x to the second. Lydia is standing at the door, smashing her face against the window. You get x to second minus 4 equals x to second. Pull those over. Negative 4 equals 0. Negative 4 is not equal to 0, so no, it does not cross. Okay, now I'm going to graph it. So you have a vertical asymptote right there at x equals 2. And it is odd. You have a non-vertical asymptote at x equals x plus 2. And that is going to look like that. And it doesn't cross it. So I'm just going to make it all the way through, and it goes like that. The other thing I know is that it hits 0, 0, and it bounces, okay? So look at that, end behavior. Look at that, y equals x plus 2. I know my graph is going to go that way and that way. So now I just have to figure out the middle stuff. So guys, look at the left side. It could be up high. Now I've got to get to that asymptote actually. So it could be up high, come over, hit it, bounce, and then I come like that. Or it could be here, I'll do this in black. So it could be down low, come up, hit it, bounce, and come like that. So then the question is it black or is it green? Well, it's black. What's wrong with the green? Well, multiple things. Number one is when I came down and hit it, I crossed the non-vertical, then I crossed the non-vertical again, and then I crossed the x-axis again, none of which I can do. And so that is not the right thing. Okay, and I just lost my axis, but that is okay because I can get it back. Okay, this right here is, this asymptote is even. So if it's down on the left, it's got to be up on the right. So I know it's going to be up like this, swing down, come over like that, and I'm done. Okay, all right, question 33. Let's see how many more we have. A few. How much more time do I have? I'm good. Okay, here is 33. Consider this, solve the system using row operations. So let's set up the matrices. So it's going to be 1, 1, 0, solid line, -1. Over here, 0, -1, 2, and 0. Here, 3, 0, -2, -11. This is actually super simple because all I have to do is get 3 zeros in the corner, right here, and right here. So the only thing I have to do is make that 3 a 0. And it's easy because I've got a 1. So I'm just going to go -3 times row 1 plus row 3 becomes my new row 3. So row 1 doesn't change. Row 2 doesn't change. -3 across the top, I have -3, -3, 0, 3. Right row 3 underneath it. Add those together and I get 0, -3, -2, -8. And that stinks because I messed up a 0, but that's okay, I can get it back. So I need a 0 here. So I'm going to go -3 times row 2 plus row 3 becomes my new row 3. So row 1 doesn't change. Row 2 doesn't change. Multiply the middle row by -3 and I get 0, 3, -6, 0. Right row 3 underneath it. Add those together and I get 0, 0, -8, -8. That's all I have to do. Then I go here. That means -8z equals -8. So z is 1. Make sure you write your answer as an ordered triple. Then I'm going to go here. Oops, didn't mean to cross that. I meant to highlight that. Now I'm going to go here. And so that is -y plus 2z equals 0. Z is a 1. So -y plus 2 equals 0. So -y equals -2. So y equals 2. Now I'm going to go up here to the top. And that gives me x plus y equals -1. I know y is a 2, so x plus 2 equals -1. Pull my 2 over, x equals -3. I would absolutely check this, put this in as A, as B, as C, then put it in the first equation, get a -1, second one get a 0, third one -11, and you checked it. Okay, 34. Okay, if you have 2 logs and a number that is not a 0, condense and convert. So this is going to be log base 15 of x multiplied by x minus 2 equals 1. If they're added when you squish, you multiply. Now I'm going to convert. So it'd be 15 to the first is x times x minus 2. Distribute x to the second minus 2x. Pull my 15 over, minus 15 equals 0. Then I factor x and x. 15 is 5 and 3. Signs are different because it's a negative. So I get x equals -3 and +5. Okay. Now I have to check my answers. So if I check x equals -3 from the beginning, not from there. So it's log base 15 of -3. So I know right there it's an invalid solution because I'm taking the log of a negative. I'm going to finish my line so it's not incomplete. Looks like that. I'm going to say is not equal to. Now I'm going to check x equals 5. So it's log base 15 of 5 plus log base 15 of 5 minus 2 is equal to 1. Please make sure you actually put this in your calculator. So to check that, you're going to go log 5, close it off, divided by log 15, close it off, plus log 3, close it off, divided by log 15, close it off, and I got 1 equals 1, checks out. There's my answer. Okay, 35. Okay, so you're using the formula y equals CE to the KT. Says you have a bacteria and the bacteria doubles every 6 hours. Given that there were 200 bacteria to begin with, how much will there be in 40 hours? So what people do wrong is they pull that 40 in right now. That 40 comes at the very end. Remember, step 1 is to find your K. Step number 2 is to find the model. Step number 3 is to answer the question. So you begin with 200. So if this is 200, double is 400, and I know that that happens in 6 hours. So I put a C in for T, and I'm finding my K. So I divide by 200, and I have e to the 6K is equal to 2. Then I convert it. ln 2 is equal to 6K. Divide ln 2 divided by 6. Grab your calculator. ln 2, close it off, divided by 6, enter. So I know that K is approximately 0.1155, and I'm storing that in. Now I'm going to do my model. So my model's this, and the only thing I put in, oops, didn't mean to do that. Sometimes it doesn't change to a highlighter fast enough. Here's my C, here's my K. So my model is y equals 200, e to the negative, not negative, e to the 0.1155 t. Now, I can use that model. They give me the t, I give them the amount. They give me the amount, I give them the t. I can use it for every scenario, okay? So now the question is, how much will you have after 40 hours? So this is very simple. It's 0.1155 times 40. You guys know to use the stored version. So everybody go 200 second ln 40 memvar, enter, enter, and they want they didn't say where to round, so it's a bacteria. So anyway, I'm going to say 20,319 bacteria. When I talked to you before, I said to round it 3 digits past the decimal if they don't tell you. So I think you would get credit either way, but 0.733 of a bacteria, that's a little odd, so that's why I'd probably go with that one. Okay, 36. Okay, so 36A, you look at the graph and you see where the circle intersects with the line and you estimate it. So look at the one at the left. You're going left about 0.5 and up a little more than 0.5. So I'm going to say left 0.5 would be negative 0.5, and then up like 0.6, something like that. Look at the one on the right. You're going to the right, maybe something like 0.8, and then you're going down less than 0.5, so maybe like negative 0.4, something like that. Those would be my guesses, okay? Question B, now you have to solve it. And the difficulty is you are going to have to solve this using substitution because the bottom is squared and the top is not. Okay, so I'm going to solve the top equation for x. So I have 4x equals 1 minus 5y, divide by 4, and I get x equals 1 minus 5y over 4. Some of you are writing that as 1/4 minus 5/4 y, and I bet that makes this problem 5 times tougher. I'm not exaggerating. So don't write them separately, write them together. Let me show you why. Put it here. So it's 16 times 1 minus 5y over 4 to the second plus 25y squared is equal to 13. On the quiz, now look what people did. 4 goes into 4 once, 4 goes into 16 4 times. That's wrong because it's not a 4 on the bottom, you guys. It is a 4 that is squared. Well, 4 squared is 16. So this actually ends up going away with that. Now I FOIL that, so I get 1 minus 10y plus 25y squared. Keep going with the line, 25y squared equals 13. Simplify it, and I get 50y squared minus 10y. The 12 comes over, or 13 comes over and becomes a negative, and it looks like that. I can take out a 2, and I'm left with 25y squared minus 5y minus 6 equals 0. Then I'm going to sit and try to factor this, so it's 5y and 5y. My guess is it would be 3 and 2, 15 and 10, and it is 3 and 2. So it looks like that. Biggest is the negative, so the negative goes there. This gives me nothing. Set that equal to 0, I get negative 2/5. Set that equal to 0, I get a positive 3/5. So I'm going to come over here. I know I'm supposed to answer as an ordered pair. The nice thing is we use substitution, and so I'm going to come to this guy right here, and I'm going to find my y, and I'm actually just going to use my calculator. So I'm going to go x equals 1 minus 5 times y, which is a negative 2/5 all over 4. So grab your calculator and punch this in. Go 1 minus 5 parenthesis, negative 2 divided by 5, close parenthesis, enter, and I get, that is not right. I did something wrong. Oh, I did times 5. I'm like, no, that is not right. Hit enter and I got a 3. So that gives me a 3 over 4, and I'm going to put it right there, and that's completely acceptable. The next one, x equals 1 minus 5 times 3/5 divided by 4. So everybody go 1 minus 5 parenthesis, 3 divided by 5, close it, enter, and I get a negative 2 over 4, which you know reduces to a negative 1/2. I would absolutely store this in for A, store this in for B, and then I would put it here, get a 1, put it here, get a 13, repeat that process for the other answer. Okay, 100% checkable. Okay, 37. 37, 38, then I'm going to go back to 23. I have a feeling I might not be able to do it, so you can just come in the morning. I'll figure it out in the meantime. I hate those problems. Okay, so here's your f of x. Find the inverse. So that's y equals, so now it's going to be x equals. So it looks like that, okay? And now I'm going to cross multiply. So I get 3xy minus 2x equals y plus 1. I'm trying to solve for y, and I have a y on the left and a y on the right. So I'm going to get them all over to the left. So I have 3xy. This guy comes over and becomes a minus. This negative 2x comes over and becomes a positive like that. And then those guys both have a y. So I'm going to take out a y, and I'm left with 3x minus 1. This is multiplied, so I would divide by that. So my answer is f inverse of x is 2x plus 1 over 3x minus 1, and I'm done. Make sure you don't write y equals. They will take points off for that. Okay, 38. This is a critical numbers type 2. So step 1, pull your 3 over, set it equal to 0. So I have 4x plus 3 over x minus 1 minus 3 is greater than or equal to 0. Step number 2, get a common denominator, which is x minus 1. So this guy right here has the x minus 1, so I'm going to write 4x plus 3. This guy right here does not have the x minus 1. Now you have to be very careful because you're distributing a negative 3. So a negative 3 times x is negative 3x, a negative 3 times a negative 1 is a positive 3. 4x minus 3x is 1x, 3 plus 3 is 6, over x minus 1 is greater than or equal to 0. I feel like from here you're home free. It's, the rest is pretty basic. Set the top equal to 0, you get a negative 6. Set the bottom equal to 0, get a 1. Those are your critical numbers. Go to your number line. Negative 6 here, positive 1 here. The 1 is from the bottom, so that's a restricted value, so it has to be open. The 6 is closed. The middle is the 0. I know my signs are going to alternate because nothing's squared. These go away if x is a 0. That gives me a negative. That's the 0 region. I know it's going to alternate, so it looks like that. I'm looking where it's greater than 0. That would be positive, so it's there and there. So my answer in interval form is negative infinity to negative 6 with a bracket. Union 1 to infinity. If you forget the union, you're going to miss a lot of points, so make sure you don't do that. Okay? Okay, I'm going to go back to 23. I'm sure once I figure out 23, it's going to be like, oh my gosh, of course that was it. Okay, so I'm going to try this one. I don't know if I tried this one yet. Negative 3. Oh, yeah, I just figured it out. Isn't that funny? So I'm going to go negative 3 times row 1 plus row 3 becomes my new row 3. So this is number 23. And that's a perfect example. Literally, I wasn't faking that right there. And sometimes if you can't do something, just move on. And then when you come back, it might be, you know, just as easy as what just happened to me. So just give yourself a little break and come back, okay? Distribute a negative 3 across row 1, so I get negative 3, negative 6, negative 9, positive 12. Write row 3 down. Add those together, and I get negative 1, negative 4, negative 8, positive 11. Hey, how are you? Kelly Kurtz is interrupting my recording. What do you want?
Sorry,
I'm busy, Kelly.
Christmas.
What are you doing to me? You're so cute.
How are you? I'm good. I miss you guys.
I know, you're darling. Look, are you doing lunch tomorrow? Oh, shut
Get
up!
out! I know. I immediately thought of you. I was like, oh my gosh. It's just a little something. I wrote the wrong.
Candy cane.
I gave
JoJo's.
Kathy. I put Kathy on one envelope and Kathy Ogden on the other one, and then I gave Kathy Ogden yours.
Oh,
and so I was like,
that's
I'm gonna
hilarious.
I'm going to take it out of the envelope.
So you're eating lunch with us tomorrow.
Yeah, I think
and
so.
how about the
I should
movie
be
on
able to-
Friday?
No,
And
I'm
lunch?
going to
No?
Phoenix.
Oh, you
I'm
are.
actually going to go to Vegas. I was going to go all the way to Phoenix, but
So Kelly Kurtz is going to Phoenix, and she's going to Vegas.
You're not
I'm
really.
I am really
You are
recording, and
not.
I'm posting this. I swear.
No.
And you're interrupting me. Give me 2
You're so
seconds. 2
high-tech.
seconds.
Let me go
Stay
check.
right here.
I'll go give
Okay,
this
come
now.
right
I'll
back.
come
So this is negative 1, negative 4, negative 8, positive 11. So this is your X, and this is your Y, and you're done. Okay? You guys are awesome. Peace out.